Breaking news right here on WREL at noon. At least one person is dead, 15 others transported to local hospitals after explosion and fire at a building in downtown Durham.
Right now, first responders are frantically searching for any additional victims and survivors of this gas line explosion. And we've been showing you live pictures now for about 90 minutes or so here from Sky 5 of downtown Durham. We thank you for joining us. Emergency crews have been working for nearly 2 hours on those scenes, trying to secure the scene of an explosion and subsequent fire from there.
Sadly, moments before this news conference, city officials confirmed one person is dead. A firefighter is in serious condition, and 14 others have been transported to Duke area hospitals. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Renee Chu.
And I'm Jeff Hogan. We have been on the air since 10:30 showing you these live pictures, sharing eyewitness accounts of what is a developing story here throughout the morning. A fire at the Prescient building that is still burning. Here is a map. Gives you an idea of where this is all unfolding. The location is right in the 100 block of North Duke Street.
We have live team coverage of this news event, and we begin with WREL's Brian Mims, who's been talking with folks who witnessed this all unfold. Brian.
Yeah, and there are still some folks outside the perimeter. The crowd is dissipating, much like the smoke. The smoke is not nearly as thick as it was an hour ago, not nearly as pungent, so the air is clearing. Let me set the scene. We're at Duke Street and Memorial Street, about a block from the disaster area. You can see the water gushing out of the hose and off the ladder trucks. I have been talking with a number of people who live and work, mostly people who work right around the scene, and one woman works just a few doors down, Sarah Jacoby Murphy. She works there in the Peabody building, I believe is the name up of the Peabody building, which has that white facade. You might see it on the screen. But Sarah, you were at work. This was around 10:15 this morning. What do you remember?
I mean, I was just sitting at my desk, normal Wednesday, and then we just felt like our whole office shook all of a sudden, and the lights were flickering, and everyone just shot up because clearly something bad had happened. We went to the windows at first, and then trying to see what had happened, but our office is on the same side as the explosion, so we really couldn't see anything other than the cars all stopped in the streets. And fortunately, we were able to evacuate very quickly, and it was fine. And as soon as we stepped outside, we could see the smoke just like rising up through the air.
Black smoke?
Black smoke, yes.
Thick smoke.
And then as time went on, it was kind of descending too over the block and whatnot. Like emergency responders were coming in. It was
just chaotic.
Yeah,
it was chaos. And do you know if your building sustained any damage at all?
I don't know. I don't. We're on the next block over, so I'm sure people will check it to make sure that it's safe to enter back into.
So you're not going back to work today. You mentioned that you're going home in a couple of minutes.
Our office is closed, so I think most places in this area are closed right now.
Sarah, thank you for giving us your perspective. We've heard similar tales from many people around the scene. Again, I'm on Duke Street and Memorial Street. Several streets around here are closed. This is an area to avoid for the rest of the afternoon. This scene will be active for quite some time, but it is improving. The smoke conditions are improving, I can say that, and we're able to breathe a little easier now. Unfortunately, a tragic fire played out here in downtown Durham. Back to you.
Brian Mims right there, and as we saw, another firefighter, Chapel Hill firefighter this time, so several departments offering assistance from that scene right there, and we've been checking back and forth with folks there. Several streets, as Brian said, also several businesses closed and folks just getting out of the area.
Yeah, in addition to those businesses and offices being closed, also Durham School of the Arts evacuated the students as well, getting buses to get students safely to places where they can be reunited with their parents, and they actually just changed a location, the pickup location for some students at Durham School of the Arts. They will now be at Northgate Mall in the Sears parking lot, and asking parents to go pick up their students there if they do not ride the bus.
We have a chance right now to get back out on the streets to Amanda Lamb, who is in Durham now. And Amanda, what are you taking now as far as eyewitnesses and the scene?
Well, Jeff, they have evacuated and closed a lot of businesses around here. Ladies, can we talk to you for a second? You guys just had your business closed for the day because of this.
We were just customers.
Oh, you were customers. Okay. So what did they tell you, that they're closed?
Yeah, they're evacuating now, so we had to leave.
What did you see when you got down here? I mean, was it this active?
Yeah. We came from 147 South, came up here, so we weren't sure if we could even get through. But we managed to get through, and all, like, the roads are blocked everywhere. So.
And, you know, what do you think when you look down there? I mean, we understand 15 in the hospital, 1 casualty, 1 very serious injury.
That's crazy. That's so sad. You know, to think that people are dying from this.
Scary. So you weren't here when it happened. You came afterwards.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, ladies. So, yeah, a lot of people being displaced today, Jeff and Renee, and I think a lot of concern. There's people, as I said, on every corner kind of watching down here, wondering what's going on. They know people who work down here. They know people who live down here. They want to make sure their friends and family are okay. And, you know, if I step out of the way, Jamie can show you what we can see from this vantage point. That emergency response just continues to increase. We keep seeing different law enforcement agencies coming beneath this yellow tape, crime scene tape, where we are coming down the street. We have seen some folks from Wake County. Obviously, all of the Durham County first responders are here on the scene. And as you can see, it's a massive response. They're obviously looking to see if there are any other people injured. You heard a few minutes ago, we talked to that window washer who was just about 300 or 400 feet away, and he said what he couldn't believe was the explosion was so strong that it blew out the windows right near where he was working, and that wasn't even, you know, next door to this. So just a very big impact from this. A lot of people very concerned, wanting to find out if their friends and family and coworkers are okay, and their hearts just going out to anybody that was injured in this incident. And so kind of people walking around in a stupor, I'd say. I don't think a lot of people around here are working. I think they've just walked out into the street to kind of check out what's happening. And of course, they're watching it on the news, but they are watching it in real time unfold right here. And we are, again, at 600 West Main Street, so just a different vantage point from some of the other crews. We're all in this general area, but there's a different, angle at each location. Back to you.
I'm sure for a lot of those folks, it's not just curiosity, but just also wondering what they can do after they see that huge response and they see a building collapsed and know that people are in danger. They want to help in some way, but just trying to know what to do next.
And the uncertainty of not knowing whether you can do anything to help. The remnants of seeing that explosion look very much like any other explosion, be it a bomb, be it a gas line explosion or anything like that. The damage in the immediate area, it all looks the same usually when you come down to it. So it is devastating to see.
Yeah, the building obliterated there. Let's go to Lena Tillett in the Live Center with an image of what that building looked like prior to this explosion. Lena.
That's right, Renee. We've been reviewing a number of Google images to try to find the most recent Google image of the Prescient building facing North Duke Street, which is the side of the Prescient building, of course, that suffered the most damage from this gas explosion. And these images are telling, and I want you to take this photograph full if we can, because this is the caffeinated coffee shop, which we now know is destroyed, and that appears to be the gas hookup right in front of the building. Here's another photograph here that shows the PSNC energy truck also directly in front of what used to be the caffeinated coffee shop, and now all of the rubble around it. And in behind this PSNC energy truck, which supplies natural gas and services to commercial buildings as well as residential buildings, you can see those flames that appear to be right where that gas hookup would have been in front of that Prescient building. Right now, authorities said that a contractor with PSNC caused this gas leak. I'm sure completely unintentionally, but the police were able to confirm that. Unclear how that happened. And then I wanted to show you this photograph. We're not going to zoom in because it appears there's someone on the side of the road here, again, in front of where this gas explosion happened. that has blood all over their face and looks very badly injured. We don't know if that is the contractor. We don't know if it's a firefighter. We don't know if it's just a passerby. So we do obviously know that 15 people were hurt, one seriously, and we are seeing one image of someone very badly bloodied on the side of the road. I will certainly continue to mine for photographs to learn more about this prescient building. Back to you all.
All right, Sarah Kruger there in the Live Center. Thank you for those images there before and after. We see what that scene looked like. Incredible.
Yeah. Lena giving that information there. And now let's get over to Sarah Kruger to continue our team coverage. She's been talking with other folks there who work nearby and heard and felt the explosion. Sarah.
Renee, I've talked with people who live nearby, who work nearby. Those who live near this scene, which is still an urgent scene, tell me that their windows flew open. You can see some of that to the left here on these West Village apartments. The glass shattered. They tell me that pictures fell off of their walls. I want to bring in Keith, who works nearby in the Chesterfield building, which is just right over there. You can see it. Keith, what was it like inside your office?
Everything was going pretty normally until just a giant concussive sort of blast hit the building and the windows rattled. The power went out immediately, and then for a little while it was just kind of panic as people tried to figure out what was going on. I stood up and looked out my window, which is on the Main Street side there, and saw that the fire department was already here, but they immediately I just saw people like rushing in towards the explosion immediately after it happened.
Was there any damage in your office, or were any of your coworkers injured that you know of?
Thankfully, I don't know anyone that's been injured. Our office is fine, but it's clear that being just a little bit closer would have actually caused some damage.
And so you work, steps away from where this explosion was. What is it like now to witness this?
It's definitely surreal. Maybe 20 minutes after the explosion, they decided to evacuate our building. And I live just on the other side of town, so I've just been kind of walking around and calling people that I know.
Look out here.
Calling people that I know to make sure that if they hear about this, they know that I'm all right.
All right, well, let's step out of the way here. It looks like this is trying to make a turn here. Keith, thank you so much. And you also mentioned that you smelled gas, or some of your coworkers smelled gas before this happened.
Yeah, one of my coworkers said that maybe 10 minutes prior, when he was arriving at work, he smelled gas, although that was before the fire trucks had arrived. So hopefully it meant that people had some warning about getting out of the building before it exploded.
All right, Keith, thank you so much. So you all can see here on North Duke Street, right by the Durham School of the Arts near Fernway, a lot happening, more first responders arriving by the minute. We will continue to stay on top of this out here. Jeff and Renee, back to you.
Sarah Kruger there in Durham once again, and this has just been a supremely active scene for the better part of the last 2 hours now. And we've been on the air for the large majority of that from the very start. Just hearing that man say a giant concussive blast hit the building pretty much echoes just about everything we've heard from everyone so far.
That's right. People who work nearby, people who are near the scene, all talking about hearing that tremor and feeling that explosion, and then seeing the blast, the flames take over the building, the large plumes of smoke. Firefighters still there on the scene trying to pour water to contain the fire. One person dead, and a Durham firefighter with serious injuries, and 14 other people with injuries. We don't know the extent of their injuries, but right now at Durham area hospitals.
Certainly we'll keep you informed as the situation warrants. We are going to step aside with our team coverage right now. Sky 5 is in the air. We have several crews on the ground in Durham. We'll continue with this coverage of the blast in Durham when we return.
Welcome back to our continuing coverage of a gas explosion in downtown Durham, the 100 block of North Duke Street, the building, the Prescient Company headquarters. And this is a look at video from earlier, probably about 2 hours ago now, when this all started, how intense the flames were, and those all that smoke billowing for miles away that you could see from far, far distances.
And we have been so focused with our coverage right there in the area of the Prescient Building and some of the other businesses, talking to people who work in the area. We have the opportunity right now to go to the phone lines live right here. John Powers joins us now. And John, you were home when you felt this blast. Tell me, describe the situation there when you first heard what happened.
Yeah, I was working from home. I was doing a video conference, and I heard this really loud boom, and my house shook, the windows shook, and it sounded almost like a tree had fallen on the roof of my house, or a tree limb. So I walked outside the house to look around and saw nothing was down, and then probably no more than a few minutes after that, I heard all the sirens, etc. So I kind of had the assumption that it was a explosion. I just didn't realize the magnitude of it or where it was at.
And what did you do next after you felt that?
I went right to WRAL and tried to see if you guys had any information. I was trying to figure out where it was and what caused it.
Well, hopefully you've been locked in ever since and getting as much information as you can. How far away is your house from where the blast took place?
It's just short of a mile north, just south of the Northgate Shopping Mall. And I actually frequent that area downtown all the time. I have friends that live down there, and I at one time lived in the West Village Apartments. So
you know Caffeinate and you know Prescient, you know those buildings right there.
Absolutely.
In
Absolutely.
the
Duke
Bright
and Main
Leaf complex.
Yep. I'm hoping that this is it. We don't have any more injuries. It's bad enough what we have. It's pretty devastating when I see it on TV.
So, John, no damage to your home, though? Nothing fell, nothing is broken?
No, I walked up the street. Doesn't look like anybody on the street got damaged, but I know we felt a concussion. There's no doubt about that.
Well, you said it almost felt like you were in the middle of a storm, but look, the sun is shining and the weather is beautiful. And then to have something like this happen is just absolutely devastating.
That is nearly a mile away as well where you are, as you said. Have you talked to any neighbors? Have you spoken to anybody else who has any kind of different accounts as to what happened?
No, not here. I've been trying to get a hold of some of my friends. One of my friends is a business owner about a block towards Duke campus at the Vines. I've been trying to get a hold of him to find out if anything, happened to his place or any of his folks. But I'm sure he's very preoccupied right at the moment. So,
yeah, John, you've been watching our coverage. When you see all the damage from this gas explosion, what goes through your mind? I mean, this is your home.
Yeah, exactly. And, you just hate when things like this happen because it impacts so many people, impacts so many lives. And like I said, I'm hoping we don't hear any more, right? Enough is enough. So.
Right at this point, one person dead, a firefighter has serious injuries, and then still about 15 in all injured and in area hospitals. We don't know the extent of their injuries right now. But John Powers, we appreciate you talking with us from your home and letting us know about what's happened with you and what you see.
And just the fabric of the community, John, thanks. Renee, just the fabric of the community, a guy like John knows people who live and work in that area, used to live and work in that area. It's a small, tight-knit area.
They walk that block every day, and they see that, or drive through that area in downtown. Let's go to Cullen Browder now, who has video of the moment of the explosion. Cullen.
Yeah, Renee and Jeff, for the first time, we're actually hearing this. We've talked to so many people who heard the blast and felt the shake. Well, from time to time, every few months or so, we have video of a truck that has gotten stuck under the railroad bridge at South Gregson Street. Well, there's a website, 11foot8.com, that has 2 webcams on that bridge with audio. It's a few blocks away from the blast scene, but watch and listen to this video. Just incredible. You can see the camera shaking, hear the blast. We've actually looped the video, so let's watch and listen. Again, that's at South Gregson Street, the railroad bridge where so many trucks get stuck under that. But you can just get the sense of what everyone has been talking about. Incredible, just incredible. And again, we're several blocks away from the scene of the blast with that video.
That is, that's a significant blast there to move that camera several blocks away. But it fits right in line, Colin, with what a lot of these folks are saying. John Powers, who just had on the phone, almost a mile away, and he felt the concussion.
Right. I mean, you consider right across the street, windows were blown out. We had so many local businesses, that local bar, that, liquor bottles were falling off the wall, that kind of thing. But again, that camera angle several blocks away, and it's just shaking from the blast.
Yeah, imagine you feel or see that powerful tremor and you know something is not right, and that's not something that you ever see on a daily occurrence. All right, Cullen Browder, thanks for showing us that scary moments for folks there.
Pictures on walls falling down,
yes.
Loss of power, electricity going out, internet going out for a brief period of time, and then coming back. So all the stories lining up together with this blast today.
Now let's go to Amanda Lamb, who continues our team coverage down there on the ground and talking with folks who saw it or witnessed it. Amanda.
Yeah, and have been evacuated. So we're at a different point now. We're kind of in the entrance to the West Village here, and you have a better vantage point of where this actually all unfolded down there. We're going to talk to some folks who were in the apartment building right next door, also own a business. First of all, can you tell us your names, ladies?
I'm Brittany Tipper.
And Melissa Ostro.
So you guys were in your apartments right down there when this happened. Tell us what you heard, what you saw, what happened.
Well, just a very loud, explosion noise. The whole apartment shook. Debris from the ceilings, fell down. The windows blew out. It's just crazy.
What did you think had happened? I mean, you're in your apartment this morning. This isn't something that would be typical. What did you think happened?
I mean, initially I thought it was maybe a car wreck, even though the explosion was so loud. That's the only thing I could come to with the fast conclusion was, it was a huge accident. Somebody ran into our building, but then I ran into the windows and I looked out, and you could see the building on the corner, just all the windows were out. There was debris everywhere. Definitely was not a car.
So you were in there with your husband, your dog. You guys got out okay. Tell me how you got out, and who told you to get out?
Well, we were preparing to leave anyways, but then we had some guy running through the hall. He was just pounding on everybody's apartment saying, gas leak, you need to evacuate. So we just grabbed the dog and left.
And you're also a business owner, so have you had a chance to see? You tell us what business you own, and do you know if there's damage there?
Yeah, so we own Ramblers, which is just across the street from our apartment building and the next street over from where the explosion happened. And we have not been able to check there. Obviously, we were closed, so we know there's obviously nobody in there, so everybody was fine. But we haven't been in to check to see if things got, disarrayed or, things like that. But
obviously, most important is that nobody was injured from your business, because we're hearing that there have been at least one casualty and many other injuries. You also in an apartment right down there. You said you grabbed some stuff because you had a feeling you were going to be out for a while.
Yeah. I heard the noise. I had no idea what it was. Never experienced anything like that before. The reverberation sound, I thought, too, it was a really large car accident. I went to the window, and we don't have much of a vantage point, so I came outside and saw the street filled with hundreds of people and immediately heard all the sirens. I called my husband at work and let him know that I was okay, but once I saw the chaos in the street, I ran back in and grabbed some essentials. Cell phone chargers, and came back out and found these guys, and we're just waiting to see what happens. And we're very grateful for the first responders and have huge prayers and thoughts for all the people involved.
Yeah, I guess that's what you're thinking when you look down there right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of people have dissipated, but the street's still blocked off, and there's still a lot to be done.
Thank you guys so much. I'm glad that you got out safely. And, this is just two of many, many stories, you guys, that I think we're going to continue to hear throughout the day, because this is a busy area. A lot of people live and work down here, and they were immediately told to leave this area. As you heard, people running through the hallways, knocking on doors, pounding on doors, telling people to get out. And so a lot of those people are now sitting out here waiting to see what's going to happen, when they can get back in. But they're not as concerned about that. They're not as concerned about the damage. They're more concerned about the loss of life and obviously the people who were injured. So that's kind of the tone that we're hearing out here today, and I think we're going to continue to hear these stories. Back to you.
Amanda, I can't help but notice the people behind you, and their body language says it all as they're staring over toward the building collapse and the explosion, and just the silence, you know, the silence. They're just staring at it, just wondering, wondering what to do and wanting to know more about what's happened. But usually a busy downtown Durham now at a standstill because of this deadly explosion at the Prescient building on 115 North Duke Street. Amanda, thank you.
That's a good point about the body language, because you can see the concern. You can feel the concern from the people there. And when you talk about, a construction crew accidentally hits a 2-inch gas line and causes that. I mean, you talk about the construction and the advancement over the last 10 years in Durham and how far that area has come and what folks have been able to enjoy over the last bit of time. This is, certainly heartbreaking to see a setback like that.
And that was a development that we learned about 40 minutes ago when Durham authorities held a news conference and said that the gas explosion, the gas leak, was caused by a contractor there. All right, let's go to someone that we have on the phone now. If you would be able to just say your name and let us know where you were when this all happened.
So my name's Phil Groshans, and
Hi, Phil.
I was actually an eyewitness to the event. I was walking across Duke Street about a block and a half away on my way into work at the Chesterfield building, and there was already emergency vehicles there. There was the traffic was backed up, and there was a police car trying to make its way up towards that where the building was. There was a fire truck already there, and so it attracted my attention, and I was looking off in that direction when the explosion happened, and there was this gigantic blast, and pink and red went flying everywhere, which I think was partially the brick from the building going everywhere. I saw the windows being blown out of the nearby buildings. The shockwave nearly knocked me down. It was so strong, even a block and a half away, and I'm still having a little bit of ringing in my ears from the shock itself.
So you were on the street on foot. And Phil, this is the first time that we are hearing somebody tell us that there was already a response in the area because of a leak, and the smell was out, I presume, before the explosion happened. Is that what you gather?
Yeah, that's what I gathered, too, because there already was a fire truck that was right there by the building. And like I said, there was a police vehicle on its way towards the building, and I heard some other sirens off in the distance. And another emergency vehicle was coming, I think another fire truck was coming down Main Street towards the corner at the intersection of Duke and Main where this happened, so that there was already first responders on the site when it happened. So my thought was that they must have detected the leak already, and hopefully it evacuated a lot of people before this had happened.
Phil, how scared were you? I mean, to feel that and hear this and see and smell all that, what was going through your mind?
I was totally shocked. I had no idea at first what had happened. It was not clear to me exactly where the blast was when it first happened, and I was really afraid that it was at the Durham School of the Arts, because again, it was just this explosion and like the brick and the debris flying up in the air. So I was totally startled, and I have to say I'm still in shock a little bit because of what happened. I made my way back home after pretty quickly. The police cleared us off of the away from the building within about 5-10 minutes, and then I went inside the Chesterfield building to check on some of my coworkers, and one of the professors I work for at Duke had advised everybody on our floor to just go ahead and leave and head home, and by that point the police had started to close off the different streets and were ushering people away so that they could get home and away from that. And that was just when the smoke was starting to get very strong. I could smell the smoke inside of the Chesterfield building, which was part of why we all decided to leave before the evacuation orders were issued.
Well, Phil, we certainly appreciate the information and that eyewitness account. And do get yourself checked out medically if you still have the ringing in your ears. Certainly, if you need medical attention, don't hesitate there for a second to go take care of yourself, okay? And thank you for the time. We appreciate it. So again, Renee, the first time that we have heard that, there was a response to that area before the explosion happened. They were alerted to a smell or something had gone off that tipped them to this to go to the area before the explosion.
And Phil said his first thought went to the Durham School of the Arts. He made reference to that. That school is about 4 blocks from the explosion site, and certainly there was worry there, but there were no students injured in this, and we've also learned from the school that they were able to dismiss early and evacuate the students, buses taking kids home, and also there's another site where parents are able to reunite with their students. Some even just went right to the school to pick up their kids because they got a text from them saying that this happened, and we're so worried about them, understandably so. But no
you and I would have been one of them as well to do it. You cannot blame those folks for doing that. It is 12:31 right now, and our coverage continues here for you. We're going to show you some more live pictures. Sky 5 has been in the air showing us downtown Durham. Emergency crews have been working there for nearly 2 hours. We have several crews on the ground as well. We've been watching them secure the scene. There has been an explosion. There has been a fire. And sadly, moments before we started this newscast, we found out from a news conference that city officials had confirmed that 1 person has died as a result of this. Firefighters in serious condition, and 14 other folks have been transported to area hospitals.
And if you're just joining us now, to let you know exactly where this is 115 North Duke Street, the Prescient Company building. It is a structural engineering company that moved its headquarters to downtown Durham in 2017. Here's a map so you know exactly the area that we're talking about, the intersection of West Main Street and North Duke Street. A lot of the surrounding streets are closed. Duke Street blocked at Main, Gregson, Peabody, Pettigrew, and Chapel Hill Streets. Authorities saying please avoid travel in this area as they keep working on this fire. We're going to go to Rosalia Federa now, who is outside one of the hospitals. We know that 15 people are injured and they were taken to 2 different hospitals. Rosalia.
Yeah, I'm standing outside Duke Medical Center. This is where 11 people who were injured, this is where they were taken. We know 2 others were taken to Duke Regional. If you're just joining us, we know 1 person is dead after this explosion. A total of 15 people injured, including a Durham firefighter who is in serious condition. Now, one question I'm sure everybody's wondering is the extent of the other injuries, how these people are doing. We've asked that, and as soon as we get that information and any update from Duke Hospitals, we'll bring that to you. For now, back to you.
All right, Rosalia Federa, outside Duke Medical Center. Thank you for that.
And we have the opportunity right now. Emmy Victor is on the ground. She's been following this. We've been on the air for 2 hours since the beginning of this, and certainly we're going to give you every opportunity to stay with us, and we'll get you through all of the happenings that are going on here just after 12:30 here this afternoon. We'll get through this together.
Our team coverage continues with Emmy Victor. Emmy, what are you learning?
Well, Renee, I'm standing outside the old Durham Police Department, and you can see this crime scene tape up here. They've asked people not to pass this area. This is an area that they've arranged for media to stand by as they wait to give us further information on the fire. Right now, it looks very quiet. You're not seeing any officials here, but just about 45 minutes ago, we had officials from the Durham Police Department and the Durham Fire Department here, and this is where we were able to learn a bit of information, the preliminary information on this fire. They did share with us in that briefing that 1 person has died. We also learned that 15 people were taken to area hospitals. Among the injured, a Durham firefighter in serious condition. So this is an area in which they've asked us to stand by for now. At 2 o'clock, there's going to be another briefing, and that's going to be over at the Durham School of the Arts. That's where we expect to learn more information. We do know that this call came in for the explosion around 9:37. I've asked more questions, including if they can release the names of those involved. involved, those injured, and that Durham firefighter and the person who's lost their lives. That information is not available to us yet, but we are certainly pressing them for answers, and we hope to get further info. Back to you.
All right, Emmy, Victor, right there. I know Emmy was right on the scene monitoring the news conference as they came down with that information. It's been quite some time now since that, so letting that kind of sink in and letting them go back to doing their jobs as first responders and getting some answers to the questions that we have.
Right, and they've already let us know that the next news briefing that they're able to give will be at 2 this afternoon, and you can certainly count on WRAL to bring that to you live. We're going to go now live to Lena Tillett in the Live Center with some new information. Lena.
That's right, Renee and Jeff. We're getting a little bit more context around this post from Caffeinate. So Caffeinate is the coffee shop that's now destroyed, that's in the Prescient building on the lower level right there on North Duke Street, facing North Duke Street. And we're now learning that when they posted this here on Instagram, due to circumstances beyond our control, we are closed today. We will keep you updated on tomorrow. Thanks for understanding. That was moments before this explosion happened. And there have been a lot of questions about whether any employees were in this coffee shop, even though they told customers not to go there. Well, were there some employees in there? Now we have that answer. They posted just a little bit ago saying, please do not come to the shop or the area around it. We are okay. We will update you when we can. Thank you so much. However, there is still a concern about the whereabouts of the owner of Caffeinate. We don't have confirmation right now where that owner is, and we saw a tweet that said that the owner was missing. Now, because they wrote that everybody's okay, hopefully that includes the owner, but we don't have it confirmed yet that the owner has been located, and we are working to get that confirmed. So many people have been asking about this, the people in this coffee shop. It's a neighborhood coffee shop that students, teachers, people all around this area utilize on a regular basis, and they want to know that everyone is okay. Right now, it appears that employees are okay. We are still working to get information about the owner. Back to you.
And Lena, in that same idea there, we still wouldn't know then if just moments before the blast, they had smelled smoke and they had just thought, well, this sounds like it might be a dangerous situation, so we're just going to shut it down for a little while. We don't know that yet.
We don't know that. We do know that a contractor was outside of that building, and you can see this right here. The PSNC Energy contractor was right in front of where the coffee shop is. Now it's destroyed, so you can't tell. But and apparently working there, police confirming that the contractor caused the gas leak inadvertently. We don't know how yet, so we don't know if that contractor told everyone to get out of the building. We don't know how that all unfolded. We are certainly trying to reach some employees that work at Caffeinate, but to see that post that happened moments before the explosion, it really is chilling. You know, it's so they should feel so fortunate that they were able to get out of that building before anything very terrible happened. So again, we're trying to reach out to these folks and get a little bit more clarity about how everyone is doing and where they ended up going. Back to you.
All right, Lena, thanks.
Yeah, but to post something like that just moments before something like that happened, what did they know? Who told them what? We're trying to figure that out, but no one in the building, at least in the Caffeinate, Caffeinate coffee shop at the time that we know of, that they were able to get out.
Our team coverage continues. We'll be back in a moment with more from the explosion in downtown Durham that killed 1 and hospitalized 15.
Welcome back as we continue our coverage of a deadly explosion in downtown Durham. Here's the map of where it took place. 115 North Duke Street, the Prescient Company building. This call came in at 9:37 this morning. So 3 hours later, we continue to stay on the air with you, covering all the new information that's coming into our newsroom as our crews continue to gather information about what has unfolded and what's next.
You see Brightleaf Square, you see the Durham School of the Arts. We can even expand that out to almost a mile. We have talked to eye and ear witnesses of what was seen and heard, and folks feeling the concussion of that blast several blocks up to even a mile away. Right now we have a chance to go to Brian Mims, who's right there on the street. Brian, you've been talking with some of the folks who have been in and out of there working and just trying to move about the city, and nothing's normal there right now.
Yeah, I'm standing here at Duke Street and Memorial Street, right behind Duke Memorial United Methodist Church. As a matter of fact, there is a woman I'm going to try to talk with. She works inside the church in, I believe, the child care center, hoping to get her perspective in just a moment. But let me show you where we are now. The scene is much clearer, at least the air is clearer than it was an hour ago. I've been on the scene for a good hour and a half, and when I arrived, the smoke was extremely heavy. I would be breathing it in and practically coughing, but now the air has cleared considerably, though the scene is still very much active. And I want to bring in this woman. I believe she works here at the church. What is your name? What is your name?
My name is Melanie Duhan. I actually work for CWS, Church World Service, the refugee agency just down there, but I was teaching in the basement of the church at the time.
You were teaching in the basement.
Yes.
So you had children, young children?
No, I'm teaching English to adults.
Okay.
Some of them had their kids with them. We run a child care along with the class, but I was teaching adults.
And what did you hear? What did you see? What did you feel?
Well, the whole building shook. There was a boom, as I'm sure you've heard already.
Yeah.
Lights went off for a second, but then came back on. Everybody was pretty calm. We did evacuate. Came out here to see what was going on. We heard very quickly that it was a gas leak, not a bomb. As you can imagine, refugees have trauma that they are dealing with their lives. So I think it was helpful for them to know it wasn't a violent event. Mm-hmm. It was an accident. They did very well. I think I was panicking more than they were. So we all sent them home, back off to the bus station, and everybody from our office is evacuated to our other office down the street.
Yeah, so you work in...
I work right down in
the Peabody building.
Yes, absolutely, right upstairs.
Which is just a few doors down.
Just a few doors down.
So how are you doing now emotionally? How's your mind doing in light of this?
I was fine until I found out somebody died. I had heard that they were evacuating when it happened, mm-hmm. And that they had gotten everybody out. So I was sort of, I felt like it was okay. It's stuff. You can replace things. Right. Sad to hear that somebody died in it.
I know, we're all heartbroken by that, and a number of people injured, and we wish them all well, speedy recovery.
Especially to the first responders.
Did you ever smell anything before the explosion? Was there any odor in the air?
I didn't. People who were going to work at the office did say they noticed gas in the air when they went into the office, but just didn't think that much of it. I don't think it was a very strong smell, but they did notice.
And I noticed your eyes water.
Sorry, I'm emotional.
You're getting emotional?
Yeah, it's a big event. This is not something that happens in my life. I'm trying to take on how it must feel for people that live with this more often.
Processing it. You have to process it.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's jolting emotionally.
Yeah, I mean, this is Durham, Things like this don't really happen in Durham. We just complain about the pollen, not about 2-foot fires and gas explosions.
It illustrates how quickly our lives can change.
Yes, it does.
In an instant, something like this can happen. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
God bless you.
You too.
Glad to see that you're okay. I appreciate you giving us your perspective.
No problem. Thank you.
Your heartfelt response to this. She was at church teaching a class, but she works in a building a few doors down from where this explosion occurred. And I must say, I'll reiterate that the scene looks much better than it did hour and a half ago. And when I say that, I mean the air. When I arrived, the smoke was so thick you would choke on it, but now the air is quite clear, and I don't see the water coming out of the hoses from the ladder trucks anymore. So we're finally being able to just stand back and take a breath of fresh air and try to process what happened. But this scene certainly will be active for a good while today. Back to you.
A good perspective from your interview subject there, Brian, talking about teaching refugees English as a second language, and they hear what they think is a bomb going off, and the trauma that they must relive going through that.
Yeah, that was very interesting. Interesting perspective, as most people that we've heard from this morning talking about, they immediately thought maybe earthquake or some other kind of explosion, backfire, right? But for the refugees, certainly from war-torn countries, and now they call Durham home, their first thought is, you know, something else, like a bomb going on.
Let's get over to the Life Center. Lena Tillett has some information on that gas line and the crews that were on the scene there in Durham from the PSNC group. Lena?
That's right. We have really important new information from Dominion Energy. PSNC Energy is a subsidiary of Dominion Energy, and they've just given us a statement. This is just into our newsroom, saying that PSNC Energy crews are on the scene of this emergency incident. A PSNC Energy employee responded to a call about a third-party damage to a natural gas line, and the explosion occurred shortly thereafter. Additional PSNC Energy crews arrived at the scene approximately 10:26 and shut off the flow of gas to the area at approximately 11:10. And we are working closely with local emergency response and county officials. Dominion Energy's thoughts and prayers are with those impacted by this tragic event, as well as their families. We are continuing to work with emergency officials on scene, and updates will be issued when more information is available. So one of the key parts of this is this third-party damage to the natural gas line. Durham police said that a contractor caused the leak that ultimately sparked this explosion. We don't know who this third party works for, if this contractor works for PSNC or works for some other group. So this is something that we certainly need to get clarified by Dominion Energy. We also want to know whether anyone was hurt from PSNC and with their organization. This is an image from Pleiades Arts Incorporated that I've been showing that shows the PSNC Energy truck directly in front of what was the front of the Prescient building and the Caffeinate coffee shop, where you can see those flames there. That's right where we believe that gas line is. So we have a number of questions that we still want to ask of Dominion Energy, but this is the first time that we are hearing from this group since this gas explosion. Back to you.
Lena, thank you. And we continue to get new information from our crews there in Durham. Rosalia Federa saying she has talked with the Durham Deputy Fire Marshal, and the injured firefighter so far is stable at this time, but that's all he would say right now about that injured Durham firefighter, stable. So we continue to keep hold that person in our thoughts and prayers.
Sure, and still believe he's in serious condition right there. 14 others transported as well to area hospitals. We'll continue. Rosalia is outside the hospital. We'll continue with our crews that are all around the streets surrounding this scene where the gas explosion took place when we return in just a moment.
We're getting some breaking details from the Durham Police Department that gives us a better timeline of how all this happened here, and some more specifics that are really important here. I'm going to read from this release that we've just gotten. Police say that Durham firefighters were dispatched to a gas leak call in the 100 block of North Duke Street at 9:38 today. Contractors were using a boring machine or a drilling machine when they struck a 2-inch gas line. Firefighters and employees with Dominion Energy were on the scene investigating the leak when an explosion happened around 10:07, resulting in a fire and a partial building collapse. So that is a very critical part of this story now, that apparently crews were using a drilling machine when they struck a 2-inch gas line, and that's how ultimately PSNC Energy crews, a subsidiary of Dominion Energy, were ultimately called here, and then the gas explosion happened after that. So this is important information. We're working on constructing a specific timeline so that it's very clear how all this happened, and we'll provide that to you as soon as we get it. Back to you.
All right, Lena, thank you. Piecing together the timeline of that, and some of the events that subsequently followed from some of the eyewitness accounts that we had, all lead in a general direction right now.
I want to take you back up in Sky 5. Brian Schrader is in the helicopter to show us what's going on, and then also to talk a little bit about how that area is a historic landmark. Brian.
Yeah, let's take you live now that we're back over the scene here. Photographer Keith Baker behind the controls here at Sky 5, and you can see now that the fire has been contained, the smoke has stopped billowing there. You can really get a look at the damage from the explosion itself. And also, look at that car there on Duke Street, right there at Main Street. The airbags are deployed. The windshield is damaged. There's another bus. We've been showing that bus earlier out on Duke Street in front of that collapsed building, where the windows are blown out, the top is blown off, the hatch there, that escape hatch is blown off the roof of that big van. And as we zoom into the building right next door, you can see the water from the firefighting effort pouring out of those open windows there, those shattered windows. Look over on the left side of your screen, that warehouse that we've been talking about, heavily damaged there on that one side that was adjacent to the building where we had that explosion and the fires. We peer inside there from this vantage point in Sky 5. You can see some of that damage, the collapsed roof. And we had mentioned earlier about that collection of cars belonging to Bob Ingram, the Glaxo executive that's housed in that building. You can see some of the damage to those cars from our vantage point up here above downtown Durham. Another thing I would point out from where we are is that so many streets in this area just west of downtown are blocked right around Brightleaf Square. We had heard earlier from Durham police they're telling people to avoid the entire downtown area if possible, especially the west side of downtown around Brightleaf Square. You can see there's a little traffic out there, mostly emergency traffic, but Duke Street, Main Street, Morgan Street, all around the West Village area, all of that traffic right now is blocked just to the west of downtown Durham. And from the helicopter, as I look out on Morgan Street, the downtown loop, it's pretty quiet in downtown Durham. I expect that a lot of people who were working downtown, who felt that explosion, who saw those flames earlier this morning, probably, if they could, went on home and tried to get out of the way for first responders to do the work that they are still doing here at Duke and Main Street. Renee and Jeff.
Brian Schrader at Sky 5 with Keith Baker providing the pictures there, and Brian put us and Keith put us right inside that warehouse of that building with the roof that had caved in there, that portion of it. The Ingram collection of Porsches there, you saw a couple of vehicles in there. That is a high-end sports car collection there. Some call it the largest display on the East Coast right there, which is an incredible loss.
Yeah, those cars, certainly collector's items worth millions of dollars, also affected by this fire. But as Brian Schrader showed you from Sky 5 and Keith Baker, the fire is out, it appears, and not as much black smoke coming from that building there. But this is a zoomed-in look at that partially collapsed roof there, big hole there in the warehouse. And as they pull out, you can get an idea of the extent of the damage here as we look at it about 2.5, 3 hours after that explosion. We're going to stay on the air with you as we continue coverage. First, we're going to go to break, and after that, more live reports from our crews in Durham.